evening, everybody. Oh, you asleep already? Come on now.
I'm getting sleepy.
Let's start the show.
So, good evening. I'm Tony Mazzocchi. I'm the director of the Cali School of Music here at Montclair State University. It's great to see all of you. How many school music students do we have here? How many communication and media students do we have here? Okay. How many students from elsewhere in the university we have here? Okay, we got a good mix. This is great. We started this series, Cali Conversations, last year as part of this immersive residency program that we have here. And you know what we want to do is just take a moment with the artists who are guests and get to know them on a different level, in a different way, to talk about things that we don't normally talk about. And most of the time, I'd say I like the thrust of it to be education. Obviously, this is what we do here. This is a school of music, of learning. And you know, the immersive residency program came out of COVID. I was talking about it last night. And I talked about it when Marcel was sitting right here with me last year. And it was during COVID when everything shut down. Every student of music and every musician, professional musician, which we were talking about, had the same thing in common, which was there was nothing to do. There was no audience to play for. There was no concert hall. So, you know, our instructors, they could have played in the New York Philharmonic. Their students and they were both not working, doing anything. And as we were talking about earlier, COVID hits you really hard too, because
because you know what I do is the beatbox is interactive, so you know you need people. Like it's a frequency that resonates with the body. So without the body, I mean you can be in a room alone, but to share that frequency, it has way more, you know, magic than being alone with it.
Well, I think that's a perfect transition. When we talk about frequency, first of all, I introduced myself. This man needs no introduction, but just in case.
Just in case, everybody, if you're new,
you're in the wrong place right now.
Wow, where can I go with the name? You know, my name is Rozell. Y'all can catch me on Instagram, Rozell the Legend, Twitter. I was going with the flow. They said, you're not media savvy. You have to be more media savvy. All right, guys, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. I don't really do that many TikTok videos. But yeah, I'm Rahzel. You know, a lot of people know me from the legendary Roots Crew. A lot of people know me from video games. A lot of people know me from commercials. A lot of people know me from different genres of music. So, I mean, I've been blessed and, you know, put in a position to work with so many, you know, talented people from all around the world. Even this weekend, this residency, had the opportunity to work with John B. Give it up for John B. Actually be a big fan of his music and, you know, his writing and production skills. You know, it's another one on the bucket list. Like, all right, cool, we got to chill with John B. But you know, so it's a blessing, you know, and you know, yeah, I'm Rahzel. You know, I don't want to get caught up into the celebrity. You know, I'm just a regular person. I just love what I do. So I think what we're going to talk about is, you know, being yourself and being comfortable in your own lane. I know a lot of people strive to be what we're taught to be, but you know, in this conversation, you're going to see that, you know, it's cool to be yourself. Feel me?
Very good, very good. And before we get deep into that, because I was actually telling Rahzel that maybe I'm personally going to update his Wikipedia page. Because I went on Wikipedia, I was like, let's see what it says. And it does not encapsulate what this man has done. But
the internet is undefeated, brutal.
but as I told the other audience here earlier, and I say the same thing about John when he speaks to all of you, Rozell doesn't even realize it. He's going to drop names of musicians who have influenced him during his life, and while he does that, the best thing you all can do is put it in your phones immediately to listen to later. You know, I remember real quick, and I said it earlier, like when we were in college, we had to save up enough money to go buy one record, and you knew when you were buying records, like half of it you didn't want to listen to.
Right.
But you spend the $10 and you went there, and then we have a listening party. It's like my friends were like, all right, you get this one, you get this one, and we'll get together and have a listening party. And you guys in your hand have a listening party every single minute. You have no idea how lucky you are. So anyone who John Rozell says influenced him, please, you will not be disappointed.
Take notes.
You will not be disappointed. But you were talking about you missed the resonance, you missed the frequencies, and you missed the live audience.
Yeah.
Well, this is a school of music. Why don't we start tonight with a little music from you real quick?
All right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, go around with us, the incredible.
And the monitor's right here. That was so different.
Yeah, that surround sound where you get the feel of impact, you know.
So some things. I mean, I'm so happy that I've gotten to know Rozell the way I have thus far. So I'm going to keep those conversations between us. But the one thing that he didn't talk about, that you didn't talk about today, that I do want to start with them with, is your why. I always ask the why. Like, okay, you're passionate about this. You became this musician, a beatboxer, human beatbox.
Mm-hmm.
From the invention of the beatbox,
Right.
and I asked him, why? Why that? Why were you so passionate about that? How did that work out? And then, yes, that's the hook, and you can tell us how you ended up really going for that. But what was inside of you that just was like, I want to go that direction?
Couldn't afford a beatbox. Couldn't afford a drum machine. So it was one of those things where, you kind of, I'm sure we all been in this type of situation where, we have friends that have abundance of resources. They got instruments, they got computers, and, we might have a laptop and a phone, we might have Fruity Loops or whatever, and we're kind of like, this is all I got. So I was the type of person, this is all I got, so this is all I'm going to use for now until I'm able to get to that next level. So, but that turned into that type of situation where I became more fascinated being able to create without actually having a drum machine. Because I would test it out on my friends, see what they think. Like, you guys are my friends. I just did this beat. I freestyle off the top of your head, and you're going like, wow, how did he do that? So I became more fascinated by the reaction because they're like, you're really doing it without actually having a drum machine. Like, holy cow, if I close my eyes, I would think it was really somebody playing the drums or playing the machine. So I became fascinated with that. So that started the drive, like, okay, I'm gonna try to add on to this, I'm gonna try to do this, I'm gonna try to incorporate that, you know, without using the actual machine, without actually having the actual instrument.
Can you imagine what would have happened in your life if you could have afforded it?
I know. And that's the thing, like, if you take that much time and those many hours to apply to something like that, so just imagine if you had the guitar, if you had the piano or any other instruments, or singing, and you just applied that same strategy to making it happen, it could have been endless.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. Just having the opportunity and the resources, I'm sure, I could have been, the bop. I mean, I'm cool with Rozell, but just on that, in that vein, they've probably been on a whole nother level.
It's funny, you think about, I don't think about it like that. I mean, obviously we'll never know. I think about it that if you could have afforded it, maybe you would have had drive to go do something else on top of it.
Right.
But what you did to deconstruct what that piece of equipment was and created as
right.
part of you
probably
as a
wouldn't
human
have been
being.
as intense.
No way. I can't imagine. It's actually, it's a gift to all of us that you could not afford that machine.
Because I know a lot of the guys that I grew up with that were beatboxers eventually went into production. So they kind of knew the basis of beatboxing, and they kind of took that and built on their production skills. Where with me, I just kept going with the beatbox. I'm like, nah, this is my drum machine. I'm gonna use it. This is my drum machine. They were like, well, I just bought a drum machine, so I'm gonna learn this. So it took them away from actually developing their beatbox skills into production.
They bought the add-on, you just went into a room for a few more hours.
Yeah.
It's actually incredible. And what I've been amazed at as we've been talking is, all the School of Music students in the nation here and in this room have kind of one thing in common. It's like this interesting progression in order to get here, right? It's like you said, you have to have certain means. Maybe you got introduced to a musical instrument or voice in school, and then you got lessons, and then you played in your regional orchestra, and you did all this and that. Your development was linear like that, but in a completely different way and outside of school walls. And that was fascinating to me. And it all happened in a park in Queens.
In the park.
Can you tell us about that?
So growing up in Queens, New York, Queens had always been kind of like, in comparison to the 5 boroughs, I don't know if you know too much about New York, but Queens people used to get teased a lot because, we had front lawns, backyards, trees, we walked our dogs, so it was, suburbs, like, you guys from the suburbs, but it wasn't the concrete jungle like the Bronx and Brooklyn, and it was just something about every weekend, these guys that DJ would come out in the parks and play music. So we had so many DJs in Queens and from Brooklyn. Brooklyn used to do the same thing, and we would come out in the parks and we would just sit around, and I was just that kid that just sat around the DJ and was trying to figure out what he was playing. Like we didn't have no radio back then. It was kind of AM radio, so we kind of listened to classic rock and rock music. So a lot of my early beatboxing skills, I was trying to imitate guitar sounds, so as time went on with the break beats, then I was like, oh, okay, now we can kind of add that rhythm to it. This is this break beat. What's the name of that record? Oh, this record is called Looking Through the Window. pulling that way. So these different records, like these are records that the DJs played. There wasn't no top 40 records. There wasn't no Billboard hits or nothing like that. It was just random records that had this little break beat that all the dancers would come out and dance to, and I was just fascinated by it, and just honing in on my beatbox skills. I was like, okay, this is what I call, we was going through the breakbeat era, so I had to compile all these breakbeats, so the park was kind of like my school. I was just there sitting, watching, listening, the MC would rhyme on top of these breakbeats, and the DJs would kind of extend the break, or they would do their little tricks on the turntable, so I learned that, watching the DJ. So all of those little things, watching these DJs do in the park, this kind of resonant. I went home, I practiced, I just used my imagination. If I'm the DJ, how do you create the sound of the record going backwards? How do you slow the record down? So it's like creating the science behind all of this stuff that was happening.
Because did you have a tape player at home? Do you have any way, or did you have to burn it in your mind from the park and bring it back?
Now, at first, there was I had no tape recorder. I probably had a little AM radio. Now, by the time I got to like my first year in high school, like I begged my mom, I was like, I'm gonna be out here. I was in Harlem for the summer. I'm like, listen, I need something to do. She said, well, what do you want to do? I was like, could you get me like a boombox with the double cassette? So I had the boombox with the double cassette recorder, and I used to borrow this guy's recorder named Blake that lived around the corner from my mom. So I used to borrow his, and I used to record on the recorder, and then record it into the double deck, and then record it to the second deck. So I was kind of creating a loop. So I would keep recording, I would keep the cycle going and going, and I would layer my voice, and then I would do my little rap on top of it, and people were like, yo, how did you do that? Yeah. But they had no idea.
For all of you, if you had a double deck tape thing back in the
You
day,
guys are living,
it was like you had the goods.
And it's kind of like the 4K, 5K, like.
If you had a 4-track machine or maybe
it's,
like that, then you own the world. So just letting you know.
There was nothing like on demand, so you guys got it pretty easy where we kind of had to be innovative about it. So it was this big, huge radio. It had 2 cassette players, and you can record one to the other. So I was clever enough to think about getting another recorder, and that started the loop process. So I was able to keep layering and switching the cassettes around, and even put a little verse on top of the beats, and I would give it to my friends, and they'd be like, how did you do this? Like, so, back then, you had to be very creative. So it really doesn't matter what age or what time in history that you're living in, creativity never stops. Where now you have way more access. So your abilities are endless. You just have to take the opportunity to use it, even for myself.
Well, you and John have this in common too, that actually I'm so incredibly amazed by. You guys have been doing this for and engaged in your craft and growing in your craft for decades now, while others they've come and gone. Mm-hmm. And because you're both such lifelong learners and so passionate about what you do. I mean, I couldn't get these guys out of the room because they were sharing stuff with each other. They're just so excited about that. So, to everybody in here who's actually, in a lot of ways, at the beginning of their, path in learning about this stuff, like, what do you have to say about that? I mean, how you call yourself the mad scientist, right?
Mad scientist,
Can you talk?
Spend hours and hours. To me, a very important thing. If there's something that just it just happened because now I observed everything. Like I'm a little weird like that. You know, people say OCD. I'm a little OCD. Like me and John was in the hallway. You heard the elevator make the noise. That's true. You know,
he's going to be making elevator noises.
But I mean, but that's you paying attention to what's around you. You're paying attention to your world. You're not oblivious. You know. But what's very important for every student in here is the art of collaboration. Don't be afraid to collaborate. Just because a person don't look like you, don't act like you, don't talk like you, that might be a synergy. That might be what you need. Because if you look at my discography, I'm not just hip hop. Like I've worked with Toots and the Maytals, I worked with Maroon 5, I worked with Christina Aguilera, I worked with Common Sense, I worked with The Roots, I worked with Bjork, I worked with, I mean, the list goes on, you know, so you have to understand the art of collaborating with other artists. Even if you're a vocalist, collaborate with a musician, collaborate with other vocalists, you know, collaborate with other programmers, because there's so many things that you can develop if you just get out of your way and like, okay, I'm gonna collaborate. Because that's how I've been able to extend my career, is not putting myself into a box, no pun intended. Like, you have to go outside of that. And I've learned that just studying Bobby McFerrin. Like as a vocalist, as a trained vocalist, this is probably like one of the only artists that I know that has 30 albums.
How many people know Bobby McFerrin here? That's going on your Spotify playlist.
Spotify playlist, Bobby McFerrin. Like, and he's a master collaborator. That's what kind of threw me into the stratosphere, just watching his career and all the different musicians and vocalists that he's compared himself and collaborated with. Like it's phenomenal. And to me, that's how I think he's been able to kind of just be this anomaly and you know, just be in his own lane and be comfortable with that. Like he's beyond legend. He's beyond iconic, because I don't think no one can ever really even duplicate those many hours that he's put in. I mean, me personally, I have many more moons to go in order to reach that level. You know, so that's what I would say to every student here. Like, don't be afraid of the art of collaboration. Whoever you can collaborate with to come up with ideas, the better.
All right, let's talk about you as a beatbox right now.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, and you know, the students this afternoon got to hear it, that you did was you, like you said, you're the mad scientist, but you're also competitive as hell.
Yeah.
And a lot of the culture of beatboxing, especially in the park, was that, you know, for Rozell to get a spot on the stage of the park, he had to win some battles.
He had to win some battles. That's the only way to get on.
And so, you know, you wanted to one-up all the time. And one of the ways that you ended up just doing something that most people don't do is you were singing and beatboxing at the same time, right? Yeah. And how many people here have ever heard Rahzel do this? Oh yeah, you bet you did your homework. How many did in the last 48 hours heard him do it? Because, all right. Yeah. And actually, you know, I want to talk about that in a second, but like, tell me about that. Like how, at what moment, because I know everybody kind of wants to hear it too, did you say to yourself, oh man, I think I might be able to pull this one off?
I mean, you know, you have to test it out. You know, it's like you have a song, you created a song, you kind of like, you know, where now, you know, everyone can put it on, you know, Bandcamp or put it on SoundCloud. Let's see how many people like it. You know, let's see, you know, how many downloads I can get. Let me put it on YouTube. With me, I just studied so many different artists and DJs and the art form itself, when I knew I was going into competition with somebody, I had to take the theory from Africa Bambaataa. What made Africa Bambaataa stand out from most people was his catalog, because he had records that no one else had. So to me, I was like, I have to have sounds that no one has ever heard before. I have to be able to do multiple things that other beatboxers aren't doing. So that's what kind of separated me. So from me studying artists like Al Jarreau, George Benson, Zap Mama, Take Six, Bobby McFerrin, put these in your playlist. This is very important. Like if you're a vocalist, a musician, a programmer, like if you listen to their catalog, it's super phenomenal. It'll change your life. It'll give you a different perspective on what you're doing currently. So to me, putting those blueprints together, I was building my own catalog. And as a DJ is known for, you know, how many records he had. So to me, going into battle was like, okay, the average beatboxer, how many beats you think they can do? I would say I'll give them 10, if that. Well, I'm sitting on like 60 to 100 different beats. So I can just randomly go into my memory bank and pull them out. And I can go simple or I can go super complex. A lot of beatboxers weren't being super complex. They weren't studying drummers, they weren't studying producers, they weren't studying DJs. So I took the extra steps to go even further, like the probability of what I'm doing, what is the probability that they're doing the same thing? Maybe 1 out of every 20 beatboxers was probably doing something on that level.
Now, were you doing this all, because I know you're doing it, I have an inherent love for it too, but were you doing it in order to be competitive, or were you really just driven to do that anyway?
Now, hip hop was super competitive.
Wow.
It was already super competitive. I already had the passion for it, and you know, during that time, the only way you were popular is like you had to compete. You couldn't just be popular by being the cool guy. You just had to compete, and you had to just, wherever you went, you had to make it a spectacle. Like, holy cow! Like, how did this guy do that? Like, you had to. It was, no one was going to give you a shot if you wasn't that brass and come forward and like, okay, any guy you got, line them up.
That's actually,
you know. So it's, you know,
incredible.
but the hip hop has always been that competitiveness. So you know, I kind of inherited that, you know, because that was the only way they was going to let me on the mic. Because that's the first thing they would say. We're like, yo, you know, my boy Rozell want to get on the mic. It was like, well, you know, you got to battle so-and-so if you want to get on the mic. So you were always challenged. So, you know, a couple of times when it first happened, I was nowhere near ready, but I'm like, okay, so this is what's going to happen every time. They're going to challenge me. So I had to go mad scientist. So I'm like, okay, next time someone challenges me, it's on. Like, we're going all the way.
It sounds like you could study them on YouTube ahead of time.
See, but see, back then we didn't have any YouTube. We didn't know who the person was, what their capabilities were. Well, now, you know, you got the American Beatbox Champion, you got so many beatbox championships that goes on around the world that these kids can actually go on YouTube. Like, I can go and look up Reaps One from London and go through all his videos and see what he's able to do and see all his shows and be like, oh yeah, I got him. I know what he's gonna do. But back then, it was a crapshoot. And my secret weapon is that people had no idea what I could do. It was just like a mystery. It was like, oh, okay, cool. But as people went on, they was like, holy crap. And I had so much in my arsenal that people still didn't know. Like, I was still holding back. Like, so I was just, you know, like I would, there's this one beat that I used to kill every beatboxer with. It was like called the transistor, like a transistor radio, the crackling sound. of the radio when you're kind of like trying to turn the knob. So, you know, they would go on and I'll look, they do their little beat, I'd be like, that's cool. So I'll go on. Just imagine this in 1986. Now we're 2022.
And it still sounds
and it sounds crazy right now. So back then, they were like, holy crap, what is going on? This is just the beat and the guitar riff. I ain't even get to the sound effect yet. So I'm like, they're like, yo, what are you doing? Like, it's not fair. It's not fair. Like, yo, what was that? You know, so to me, you know, just having an array of different effects, different beats, different this. My study was intense. I'm talking about it was super scary.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, parents were like, maybe we need to go get him some treatment or something. I don't know what he's doing in that room, but it sounds scary. Whatever. I don't know if he's having a seance in there, or who he's trying to call on the other side, but it's weird. But you know, in order to create those sounds vocally, you have to go there. You can't be afraid. It's gonna sound stupid. You're gonna look crazy. But the outcome is so beautiful because the reaction that you get from people, and especially people that are unaware, especially if they're not even looking at you, and then they're just like this. They're not looking at you. They thinking like, oh, that's a cool record. And then turn around and it's you.
Yeah, look, before I forget, you've said two things that are huge teaching moments, not only to me, to all of us. One was a little back, and I have to say, because I always forget. I'm like, that's a great teaching moment. Man, what was that? But the first thing is the array. I call it filling your windshield. You fill your windshield with all of these different things that made your artistry what it is. I remember one time somebody asked me, hey, have you ever listened to Yo-Yo Ma playing cello? And I was like, well, why should I listen to that? I play trombone. And I did, and they're like,
Yo-Yo Ma.
right, and they're like, look, go listen. And listening to other instruments was like the best thing I ever did for my own musicianship. Just like reading different books from different writers, if you're into writing, and going outside of what you do in order to affect what you actually do. It sounds like a no-brainer, but I think a lot of us don't do that, and we huddle up in our corner and listen to what. And the second thing you just said right now was you weren't afraid to look stupid, which means you weren't afraid to fall flat on your face and fail.
Fail fast.
Which means you took yourself out of your comfort zone in order to create a new comfort zone.
Fail fast. The quicker you get it over with, the better. Don't let it linger. Fail. Try again.
That's probably the best lesson of the year for
a lot of people are afraid of failure and they drag it out and it's miserable. Fail and get it over with. That's what you want. You know, you get in an argument, why are you holding on to that? Let it go. Nah, I can't get over it. Get over it. It happened, time to move on. You look stupid? Yeah, I've been booed. I've had tomatoes thrown at me. I had all kind of stuff happen. It was, listen, I opened up for the Who.
Like you really had old school, you had old school tomatoes thrown at you?
Tomato. Nah, it was worse than that. I don't know if it was a battery, but it was a funny thing. I was in Boston with a Yankee hat.
Yeah, that'll get stuff thrown at you.
Holy cow, what's going on? We don't care what you do. Get that out of here. I'm oblivious. I'm going like, I'm beatboxing my heart out. You don't like it?
So the Yankee
like this.
Oh, man.
The hat, bro. Get rid of the hat. Like, we don't like anything New York. Listen, get past it. It's gonna happen. It's the inevitable. But the quicker you get past it, the closer you get to your destiny. It's when you drag it out, it keeps you away from your destiny. It's just a slow road. So if you failed, it didn't sound good, that means put it to the side, start something different, and come back. Come back to it. Like, stuff that I'm doing is 30 years old. And to you, you're like, I did it 30 years ago. That's the beauty of creativity. It has no expiration. When we get stuck in that, like, oh, it sounds dated. No, it sounds dated to somebody that told you it sounds dated. Someone that never heard it, it's brand new. That's what I love about the internet. Like, I have videos that go viral 2-3 times a year. And it's a big thing again. I'm like, this video is like 15 years old, but it goes viral like every 6 months. But for the people that like it and love it and keep reposting it, it's new to them. They're like, yo, this is great. When did you do this? 1996. You know what I mean? So that has to be your approach with anything that you do. Like, hurry up. If it doesn't sound good, okay. That's what you think. But keep it. Don't trash it. Don't throw it away, because that might be the gem that changed your life.
You know, a couple of things. I don't know if you can't see, but I can. And one thing I learned today, which was a no-brainer once you told us, but Rozell's beatboxing on the inhale and the exhale so that he can continue to breathe as he does it. So I don't, half of the stuff you hear coming out of his mouth, you think is a, but it's actually an inhale. And the fact that I even tried to make a beatboxing sound is mortifying right now. But thank God it came out of something. But there was that. But the other thing is, you got so passionate about how to do this that you started studying different dialects.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us specifically African dialect with a lot of the perseverance?
The origins is from West Africa. It's a dialect called Hockney. So it's like the click language. So it's kind of like when I do If Your Mother Only Knew. So they say the word, but they put the click right on the, like, hello, my name is. So they drop the click right in front of the syllables. That's kind of how I do If Your Mother Only Knew, because I drop the beat right in front of the word. It's real precise. It's right. You hear the frequency and the pressure of the air that creates the beat right on the letter and the phonetic sound of whatever it is. Like, if is if. It's not biff. It's not biff. Biff. So you create the if your mother only knew. Clicking language from West Africa, it's the same thing, they just add the clicks.
And because now I know the culmination of this, I want it. You gotta do that for everybody.
Yeah.
But before we do that, but how did you get from that, I want to do this, let's go check out African dialect? How did that happen?
Okay. Now, I'm in hip hop mode, right? I'm working on my album, Make the Music 2000. I'm working with the Roots, working on Illadelph Half-Life, Things Fall Apart, Illadelph Half-Life, Phonology. And during this time, we're traveling all over the world. So we're traveling to different countries. So now, we're being immersed into different cultures. So the first thing they see a beatboxer, you have other people come up to you like, listen, in our culture, this is what we do. You know, so that's how I met Tubian shamans, that Tubian singers, how they're able to create 3-4 different sound patterns at the same time and able to manipulate each one of them separately, simultaneously. So that's just through my travels and being able to be in different cultures. Like earlier, the second session, I met the 2 gentlemen from Italy, and I mentioned to the one gentleman that was an Italian rapper about a group called La Voce Atroce. Those are guys that I met in Vicenza. And they're an a cappella group. So the fact that I was doing a beatbox, someone approached me like, listen, you know, we have a huge a cappella group here, and it would be amazing if you could do a collaboration with them. So we kind of, they brought me back over to Vicenza, and we did this big event, and it was just amazing to see different cultures have something similar to what we were doing, and even the guys that came before us, like Al Jarreau and Bobby McFerrin, like they were doing something similar, but it was within their culture and what they understood.
So it was really through your travels, and then you immersed yourself in those cultures, came out, and it was like fill in the windshield some more. Like, Well, you know what's amazing is like, this is like almost the fastest hour that I've had today. So what I'm thinking is, I wanted to have some questions from the audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
But before we hit that, I was just wondering if maybe you can hit us with Your Mother Only Knew.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen,
if your mother only I gave y'all the peak rock SB 1200 breakdown.
Oh, man.
So I was actually sampling the melody in my head, you know, the
the last thing I'm gonna say is, so being this close, I'm looking over here, and you were not shaping the words in your mouth of "if your mother only knew." That's why all of the bursts of air and the clicks and the consonants are actually creating the words, not him saying the words. And that is the most fascinating piece sitting right here of how that just happened. And that's from all of your studies.
Yes.
That's from all of your studies, which is absolutely, and it's so commendable, man, because you really took it to a whole other level that is just unbelievable. I know we only have a few minutes because I had to figure out what we were going to talk about. We could have gone in so many different directions with this gentleman. It's like we're at the very tip of the iceberg right here, but oh well. Any questions from the audience, please, for Rozell? Yes.
May I just give you a compliment and
Thank you.
just say I'm 33, so I've heard you for many, a while now, and
Thank you.
my boyfriend's actually a producer, and
Oh.
has said, "Oh my God, you're gonna go see Rozell tonight?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So it's very exciting.
Well, tell them I said hello.
And
Yes.
I just want to say the life lesson.
Yes.
I'm a psych major, but
Okay.
it goes for everything.
Everything, every facet.
Everything you do,
Yes.
and you are a role model
Yes.
for a lot of those young artists just starting out
Yes.
who just want to make the big bucks
That's right. Yeah.
and just
yeah.
shine. You gotta go.
It's more to it. It's way more to it.
You're
Like
fabulous, dude.
you have to have that faith.
In your
that faith
heart.
is strong.
You got it.
Yes.
Thank you
you
very
for
much.
coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you take the hat off in Boston?
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. I had to.
You got two choices.
Like it was no other way around it. I had to get rid of the hat. Yeah. Actually, I turned it backwards, so everybody started cheering. Like, I was like, "Holy cow! Wow! Now they like me."
I just find it funny that she was sitting in the audience for the last 15 minutes wondering. I was like, I got it.
Oh, like, did he make it out of there? Any other questions?
Yes.
After talking about
Thank you.
you competing, what made you keep going despite, how you said fail fast, after all that failure that I'm, sure you
Yeah.
experienced, if you've gotten this far,
Yeah.
what made you keep pursuing and, pushing through it? Just
People. The people. Just the response is so intoxicating. Just seeing how people respond to it. I like this. Sometimes I would just ride the train, or I would be in the elevator, and I'll start. And somebody's looking around like, I got a kick out of it. So to me, as funny as it sounds, that was a drive because I just loved that response, and whether it was comical or something serious, I just loved the response that I got from it. So that's what kept me going. Even during there were periods, like I mentioned in the 90s, when kind of gangster rap kind of took over the airwaves, and kind of just the underground scene kind of dissipated. And a lot of the artists were scurrying, trying to reinvent themselves, and didn't know which direction to go to. To me, I don't care if it was a karaoke bar or it's a pub somewhere and they had a microphone and some speakers, I would get on just to see what people would do. So that's what kept me going. So once I started getting noticed from that, and word started traveling, and then other artists started to start a whole new movement, that was just the perfect way for me to get on, because it just made me more accessible to people. So to me, it's always been the people.
Can you talk a little bit about how you embody the music? Because you're playing the drum machine while you're doing it. Your hand.
In my head, I'm actually programming. My brain is like, okay, we're programming this sound. We're gonna loop it like a hip hop producer would do. That's why I say like a Pete Rock or a DJ Premier, a Timbaland. These guys take sounds and they loop these sounds. So you guys being, in a music school, a part of a music department, there's so many different, resources available for you to use. So all of these things I'm using from just hearing and listening. And so I'm kind of like compartmentalizing these things, and this is my drum machine. So in my head, I'm actually playing the drum machine as a producer with it.
You were playing the drum machine that you never bought.
That I never
Every single day. It's actually incredible.
So that's the power of the mind, because if you really believe it, it could be actuality. Like I'm sitting here, like he said, I didn't have the resources to buy a drum machine, but in my mind, for the past 30 years, I have a drum machine. So my brain is like, your brain is producing all of this. Like it's telling, it's recording and it's programming, and you see, I can't even help it. It's the movement. Like I'm in here like, wait, what is he doing? Like, is there anything there? Like in my head,
It's there.
this is the virtual world. So you see me, when they put the glasses on and they like this. Like, what are they doing? Like, I'm flying. Like, I'm still on the ground. And I'm going like this, like, there's nothing in this lap. Like, what is he doing? But that's the power of the mind, Any other questions? Yes. Gotcha.
I got a quick question. I've seen you perform like 15 years ago. I'm from Long Beach, New York. So
Okay.
Nearby. And did you ever perform with Black Alicious?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
it must have been a
yeah.
Second question, I like your stories about the park. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, were you ever beatboxing while people were freestyling, cypher kind of thing?
Of course, that was always second nature, because once you battle the guy of the neighborhood, now the MCs wanted to like, oh, this is the guy, like we want to be with him now, like he's part of us.
Were there any notable people that back then, before they blew
Oh
up?
man, LL Cool J, Run DMC, earlier in high school, actually Sandy from Salt and Pepper, Sandra. Man, who else I beatbox for? Hold on. I don't know.
Like Q-Tip or anybody? Because he's from Queens.
Q-Tip, actually I was from Hollis. Q-Tip was from St. Albans, so he was on the other side. Like, unfortunately, we never met and lived in the same borough.
Because he talks about it on Farmers Boulevard.
Farmers Boulevard was a pretty dangerous place, so we never really ventured on Farmers Boulevard. Kind of stayed away from there, but you ever heard of, there's a group called Ultramagnetic, like I beatbox for Ultramagnetic. I'm forgetting so many people because, I let it be known, and I was at so many park jams and park sections that people were like, listen, we want you to come over in our neighborhood and do something. So, it was one of those things. Yeah. Question?
So I know because it's been so submerged into like the hip hop culture, and you really gotten a chance to watch firsthand at how hip hop has really completely changed
Yeah.
over the years. And I want to know if like currently in John B, I don't know, you're more so R&B as well as hip hop, and I know that you guys have watched so many artists like come and go, but like, are there any new artists that you think are more so like, or you look at them and you're like, oh, that's like a real embodiment of what hip hop is or what hip hop could be in the future?
I love the Kendrick Lamars and, the J. Coles and the J.I.D.s. There's tons of like new hip hop artists that are out. I even like some of the Littles and they got some cool stuff. What's that guy? You don't even believe in Jesus. Why you got a Jesus piece? Kodak. Yeah, you got the. But what I like about Kodak, that's what I like about Kodak. Like, you don't even believe in Jesus. Why you got a Jesus piece? Because me just being a beatboxer, I'm so focused on the cadence of his voice, and I'm like, why do people like this? And then I'm like, what do you like about it? I said, well, he has a weird voice, but I like it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what he's saying, but it just sounds, the melodicness of it. Like, okay. Because in our era, we had Bismarck. Bismarck was outlining, you got what I need. And it was just the biggest and brightest thing. And that's what made people fall in love with him. So that's when I look at a Kodak Black, I'm like, it resonates with what's going on right now, because he has that. I'm like, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's tons of artists that are coming out that, you know, I really like, and even with some of the production, because, you know, I love low end and I love 808s, so anything with 808s in it, I'm like this head over heels over it. So, yeah.
One more question, and then it's time.
Yes, sir.
What was your favorite Roots project to work on?
Ooh, favorite Roots project to work on would have to be Things Fall Apart. It was, you know, that was kind of the defining moment, the game changer. This was kind of like, okay, this is it, guys. Like, we've been behind everybody else. We've been, you know, now it's time to break out. Everybody ready, because the wave is about to go. And that was it for us. So that was kind of the defining moment, and that was the album that kind of just changed everything for everybody. Because we were kind of like the underground. We was the underdog. Everybody was like, you know, gangster, you know, what hip hop was at the time. And even though early periods of hip hop, you know, if you listen to the older records, there were live bands actually playing these records. But with the influx of the drum machine and programming, you know, it kind of took the place of that. So the Roots actually bringing that back into the culture was a game changer. And then adding the beatbox of all things as a synergy coming together, it just took it to a whole nother level, you know, so.
We could do this for a while.
Yeah.
John is here all morning tomorrow morning. If you have not met John B, tomorrow is the day. And I don't know if I can speak for everybody, but I'm definitely speaking for myself and a lot of other people. I'm sorry, not sorry you didn't get to buy that beatbox back in the day.
But you know what's funny? When I signed my first deal with Universal Records,
That's right.
I did buy a drum machine. I bought the drum machine, and I gave it to my son.
John asked which one.
I gave it to my son.
Yeah, which one?
Which one would you
The first MPC.
MPC 60?
No, was it 2000?
Or 2000?
Yeah, the MPC 2000. I wind up giving it to my son. Because I'm sitting there with the machine, I was like, yes, I got the drum machine. Finally. And I'm like, reading the manual. This is going to take another 10 years. I'm like, I don't have the time. I'm like, yo, I've been doing this for 15, now I got to stop. And I'm like, man, what you think, kid? You want it? Like, sure, Dad. I'm like, here you go.
You want to send them all out with one more beat?
Okay, one more joint. Rozell. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, before you guys leave, just remember, I said it before, it's okay to fail. Failure is really not failure. Everyone heard of GPS, right? What happens when you turn down the wrong block? Rerouting. Right? It reroutes you. That's what failure is. It's just rerouting you. The object is to get to the destination. My mother always taught me about the tortoise and the hare. More people are in a rush to finish, which is the hare, right? The rabbit's all over the place. But the tortoise is like, I'll get there. You'll get to the end eventually, as long as you get to the destination.